The EMS people and the first responders were phenomenal on and off duty. I heard a medic yell that she needed help. She was trying to start a line. So at that point, I went to start a line. I saw the young lady that she was trying to start a line on. And so we started a line, IV line. I just operated the tourniquet and straightened out the arm, and we got an IV in her. And at that point, I was checking her vitals, and her pulse was racing, but she was extremely calm. And we have enough training to kind of understand that, you know, your bullet wounds, your entrance points, your exit points, and she had no exit wound, and that really worried me. Internal bleeding is the first thing I thought of, and she was starting to have a hard time breathing. And as calm as she was, I knew she was in shock. So I asked her to just trust me, and I wouldn't let anything happen to her. And I asked the EMS coordinator, it looked like a coordinator person, if they had a ambulance point where we could take patients. And they said out the door to the left. Just go out this door and off to the left, and you'll see a parking lot, and there'll be ambulances there. So I asked her if she could make it there, and if not, I'll carry her. And she was able to walk. And so we walked over there. Tactical people, police, everyone running all over the place. I was listening to the radios. You could hear we have multiple shooters. We all knew that someone was shooting at us from above. It felt like they were shooting into a fishbowl or a barrel, which, you know, later on we kind of find out they were. We got across that parking lot, and there was not a single ambulance. There was a EMS Suburban that was locked up. There was a police wagon that was locked up, and there was a bunch of kids sitting, basically sheltering behind the police wagon. Once we got over there, I was holding our IV bag, and I found a lawn chair underneath that EMS Suburban, and I picked it up, put it together, and sat her in it. And I said, "What can I do for you? Because I got to find a car. I got to figure out how we're going to get to a hospital." And she said she wanted to call her mom and dad. And her phone was dead, and she couldn't move her right arm. So I pulled my phone out, and I give me a number. And at this time, we have a lot of police running by us and yelling at us to stay down, get low. We couldn't, obviously, because she's, you know, we're trying to keep her stable. So we called her mom and dad, or her dad. Her dad answered, and she was so calm and cool and collective, and she just said that I've been shot, and I'm with a firefighter, and I'm going to be okay. And then I grabbed the phone and I said, "Sir, I gotta go. I will text you when I know what hospital we're going to." And we hung up. And at that point, some very large cowboy-looking dude came up behind me, saw us pinned behind this Suburban, and he said, "What can I do for you?" And I said, I'm a firefighter. I need a car." There was one car out in this parking lot, and I will never forget it. It's this Audi that was sitting way out by itself, no other cars in this parking lot. And I see this gentleman with white hair running to it. He ended up being one of the stagehands, managed lights or something like that at the concert. So I said, "I need that man, I need that car, and I need him over here, and I don't care what you have to do, but I need them." So he ran over there, and he sprinted. I mean, that guy, incredible run. And I got over there, and you could tell they had a conversation. The Audi came over to where we were. We opened up the back door, got in the back of that Audi, and headed to the hospital. Wayne was his name, and Natalia is the girl I was working with, 16-year-old. Again, just a remarkable human being. And we got in the back of that car. I asked him to find an ambulance and chase it. Throw your hazards on, get behind it, travel in the left lane so we could break the lights. And he did a really good job. And en route, we got diverted. The trauma center was full at that point, overwhelmed. We went to a private hospital called Sunrise Hospital, and in the back, Natalia started saying that she was getting real tired. She was going numb, and her IV was coming out, which didn't surprise me because we were driving at a very high rate of speed. And so I held on to IV the best I could, and I pulled my phone out, and I said, let's look at some pictures, and let's talk about who you came to see. And she came to see Jason Aldean, and we talked about Jason Aldean and DJ Silver and some of these great artists. And I was showing her pictures of my dog and my wife, and she lit up when she saw the dog and pictures of my son. And we developed this really remarkable bond in the back of that car. All I could think about was just keeping her mind on something else. And I didn't want to lose her. I've already had a connection with her father and her, and I know that's out of my hands. You know, we got to the hospital, and trauma center was just a lot going on, of course, and got a wheelchair, took her in, went in trauma. It was the best way I can describe it. It was just like a bloodbath of floors all the way in, and they were overwhelmed. There was not enough people there, obviously. Handed her off to a nurse, and I told her she'd be okay, and I hope to see her again. And then I went out and started working triaging. We had taxi cabs, we had Ubers, we had people in private vehicles, we had pickup trucks showing up, bodies, a lot of bodies, and just triaging. And by the meaning of that, we're just trying to figure out what patients are viable that we can save, and because there was a lot of patients coming to us that didn't make it en route. You know, one pickup truck I will never forget. We were pulling people out, and there was two people that didn't make it, and a husband who was handing me his wife and saying, she's fine, you just got to get her in there. And we had to check pulses before we took him in because we were overloading that center. And she didn't have a pulse.